Geronimo, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Well, you see the latest from Forbes? The 40 under 40 list. Guaranteed dreams when you're rich. Them nice, eh? Watch them living the life, eh? Why come here again for? I swear I come here to dive square into the sphere of my aspirations. Let me refocus my eyes, let go all sides and dive into my main course. Wait, pause. Post several social media statuses of things I haven't done yet, so you know social media could vet my future actions. Let me scroll through the comments. Who is this girl seeking to sanction me with what reeks of critique? Let me click she whole profile. Several photos on the beach. Hashtag vacation, hashtag Malibu, hashtag Venice. She living the life. So God sent her to preach. Who am I to just dive without considering every single other opinion of righteousness? So let me just step back and reflect back. Because it's a reflex act that default to self-doubt. Some of us sitting on the ledge for such lengths, we forget we are allergic to heights and urge amnesia to flight. We clip our wings and fold them tight, turning our backs to the sun's light. I can do all things through who? Right. We forget. So we sit stagnant on the edge, staring at procrastination instead of our dreams, the water. And without good intention, we end up seeing the worst parts of ourselves reflecting. So every time it's time to dive, we defy our desires to thrive, and we become defined when our desires die. Coco. Behold the kobo flies, staring at your dreams' intestines. That kobo smelling that dream rotting inside your head. But time to tell that kobo that your dream not dead. Instead of being dead while alive, why you don't just dive? Fill your lungs and plunge into the deepest unknown, into the undertow. Point your toes and hold your nose and get to know what down below. Just dive. Press send on that email in drafts. The boss might not accept it, but show them what you have. Just dive. That diet awaits. The dial to change your life's habits alarming. Switch off that snooze delay. Just dive. That girl in your scope who you never spoke to. That boy you have your heart in a chokehold and you want his surname cloak on you. The time is right. Tell them the poet say you're diving into that DM tonight. Just dive. That job you want to vacate, just dive. That solo trip to go somewhere, just dive. That book you wanted to write, just dive. That God you wanted to give your life, just dive. You already prepared for the swim? You climb to the top of the cliff, you put all the work in, there shall be no thin skins at the summit. Even if you need a push and you end up belly flopping into it, remember that is your ocean. So the notion of you not experiencing all of its deep, that's the kind of thoughts you want to keep under the sea. So just dive. Watch me. 3, 2, 1. I know where to dive, so I'm done. All right. All right, my name is Derron Sandy. I say, yeah, you ought to clap. I end up a All right, and that poem is called Just Dive. I'm going to share some things with you all today. 3 things in particular, but I want to start off by saying that the path I took is not probably the best example to take on. I'm being very realistic about that. It's not a boast, it's a warning that, many people might try to do what I did and might end up starving. No, it could have happened to me. But it didn't, and I'm thankful for that. All right? So X marks the purpose. Now, last year in an interview, I discovered that I started figuring out my purpose from a very young age. And I'm just going to tell you all a series of anecdotes tied into this, right? So when I was small, I had a wild imagination. So I had a yard. Well, we live in Maloney. We lived in Maloney. The houses stuck on together, so your wall is your neighbor wall, etc. But we were lucky because we had one free wall, so there was a track in between. And in that track in between, there was a kind of dirt estate or plantation. That became a world to me. Right? When I say a world, I mean a real world. The ants and the batchaks were people. Right? The lizards were criminals. At that time, there was a criminal in Trinidad called Lizard. Anybody remembers Lizard? He was a bad criminal. So the lizards became criminals. The ants were people. There was a little cave. And that cave was called the Cave of Shalala. And, they used to hide bodies in there. And everything had a name. And, I used to catch ants and batchaks, and I was very serious about it. Serious to the point where at a time a friend of mine emptied the batchaks out and we fight. Yeah, we fight for them batchaks, I'm telling you. Right? But the imagination was there from a young age. I used to play cricket by myself, right? With a lime. I'll pelt the lime against a wall. When the lime bounced back off the wall, I bat it up in the air, dive in for the catch. I'm wicket keeper, fielder, everything. And that's how my imagination used to run. And it was only during that interview I was thinking that, these things from a very young age kind of just shaped who I ended up being, which is a creative, so to speak. And that is important. That is important because I had the freedom to imagine, the freedom to be. My freedom was never stifled by my parents. And I wasn't afraid for my friends to see that I playing cricket by myself or football by myself, right? And I had all these things in books, scores upon scores, games upon games that never happened in real life. Recorded there, and I used to protect these records because that was my imagination I was protecting, right? I used to have full concerts by myself, right? Singing, dancing, everything. The concerts has winners, you name it. Win and lose together. That's why when I lose slam now, it don't do me nothing because I lose it for years, you understand? So yeah, that imagination, I don't want to use the word festered, but it grew unfiltered and uncharted. And my purpose started developing from that young age. In addition to that, on the street we had 2 clubs, Cornflakes and Biscuits, 2 sports clubs. I named the clubs Cornflakes and Biscuits. I don't know why Cornflakes were, but I was the captain of Cornflakes, right? Biscuits had 3 fellas on it, 3 big fellas. We were in primary school. My team was me and a set of primary school girls, all right? And we used to play cricket. This is real cricket now, eh? We used to play cricket every Sunday, right? Every Sunday, and we would lose and lose and lose and lose to these 3 fellas, and people pass and say, hey, all the advantage in the chair and thing. And they'd always ask me to change the teams, and I kept saying no. I would not change these teams. These are the people I ride in with. We ride until the very end. And one Sunday we won. Right? One Sunday we won. It's not a happy thing really because we keep losing after that. We didn't. It wasn't a big change or anything in the tide. We continued to lose. Right? But I learned to lose. And I learned to stand in a position where I could take licks. Because in this field, in this creative field, you have to be able to take licks. You have to be able to hear people say, hey, that I don't really like that. YouTube used to have a dislike button and they take it off because Gen Z soft. So they take off the dislike button. But you have to be able to see people disliking your work. I have been dragged on social media for a poem called Racist Waste. I've been dragged on social media for a poem that called Knock It On Them when I was talking about what Kamala said, what the Honorable Kamala Prasad says. Right? So I have been dragged for those things. But you have to be brave. When you're in the field of creativity, when you're making something, especially something like spoken word that was primarily underground for a long time, you have to be able to be brave and go out and say the things you have to say and live with wherever the chips fall. And I guess that might fall into any creative space generally. You have to be able to take rejection. You have to be able to see a concert and know that you have not been invited to that. And feel no how. Because life goes on generally. Right? And that is part of X marking the purpose. The second thing I want to talk about is X marking the problem. Of course, you'll face challenges, as we know. Right? Anybody working anywhere will face challenges, whether they're pumping gas at a gas station. Right? They might face challenges because the person just not opening the gas tank for whatever reason. Right? They're on the phone while they're lining up for the gas and you vex there waiting to pump the gas. Right? And the person don't care. But I have a question for you all. If you all see somebody walks in the door with muddy shoes, right? In this nice TEDx space, nice mat and thing. and they have a lot of mud on their shoes. How many people are going to stop them? How many people you're going to stop them, young man? You're a brave fella, right? How many people going to just wait until they sit wherever they have to sit and then, all right, we'll clean up the mud after, etc., etc. You know how many people that's going to talk about it with a friend? That's the easiest one, and let's talk about somebody's mud with a friend, right? But it becomes extremely difficult when you are the person with that mud on your shoes. And when you are that person with the mud, unfortunately, you cannot depend on anyone to tell you where the mud is or to tell you that, hey, you have a problem. Now, it would be nice to get that assistance, albeit Christian brotherhood, etc. But sometimes, one, nobody knows your problem, right? Two, you have been investing a lot of time in hiding these problems. Three, you have been placed on a pedestal, so to speak, where you are unable to really share your problems in a real way. But you will face problems when you're reaching a position where people calling upon you or people just like the work that you do, etc. You'll face a lot of challenges, right? And these challenges come in different forms. And it's up to you as a person to be brave enough to recognize your challenges and say, yeah, I've really failed in this particular area. I've really hurt X amount of people. I've really done this in a way that I probably should not have done it. And, you know, walk back on those decisions and say, yeah, I was wrong, right? Being able to see that you're wrong becomes very, very important. Not just as a creative, but as a human. Because if you're never wrong, you're never in need of God in the first place. And if you're never in need of God, then what you doing here, right? Yeah, what you really doing here? The last one is X marks the prosperity, right? There's a lot to gain when you end up following something that you like and it works out in the end, right? There's happiness every single day. Let's go back to when I was smaller. And when you're growing up, I used to be outside a lot. Strangely enough, my parents didn't really like my older brothers and sisters outside, but I grew up outside. Cricket, football, basketball, real and fake, you know the thing, right? And the one thing you learn about outside is just how to take talk with. Like, people will pong you and pong you and pong you. And then after a while, you realize that, you know what? I probably just take myself too seriously, right? And sometimes in taking yourself too seriously, you become offended too easily. And when you become offended too easily, you tend to miss your goal, you miss your mark, etc. Because you're spending so much time just being offended about things, right? Now, I forgot where I was going with that point eventually. But trust me, that was going somewhere profound. Right? It was going somewhere. No, but what I'm saying, X marks the prosperity. How that connected to prosperity? Anyway, it don't matter. What does matter is that you will get talk and different things from people, but you have to remember the blessings at the same time. Right? You have to remember the blessings. You have to remember the greatness. I've been blessed to be part of so many things. So many productions, so many projects, helping people, etc. I try to remain always open and available to helping people at minimum, at the least that I could actually do it for. And really just ask God, all right, God, you have done so much for me. What is there available to do for you? Right? So that's why many times you might see me in a graduation and this and that and the other. And many times I'm just doing that for free. Don't call me for no free thing. It's just a gesture and a reference, right? Many times they're doing it for free because they tend to understand several things. That schools just don't have money for things. And schools need a lot of help. Trinidad and Tobago schools need a lot of help. And you just have to raise your hand and get in there if God gave you the gift to be there. I'm still trying to think about that point where I was really raising for the talk, you know? But anyway, it gone and it probably wasn't meant to be said, right? So essentially, that is the story. I walked in UWI once. I looked at a sheet of things, and I just said, I'm going to do the thing I like, which was English language and literature, because I said I could spend 3 years doing that. And that might not be the best example, but it worked out for me, whereby I was able to trust God and just tell him, yeah, I'm going to do this. At the end of 2013, I left my job and I tell him, yeah, I'm going to do performance, poetry, etc. full time. And now remember. that talk and that constant thing and not taking yourself too seriously made me recognize that I don't need much things in this life, right? And because I recognized that, I was just able to go wherever, not worrying about a car because I don't really care about cars and things, not worrying about a house. And I was lucky to have a wife that she kind of feels the same. As I said at the start, that wouldn't be everyone's story, but that was my story, right? That was my story where I found my purpose through faith, where I encountered the problems and overcame them through faith, and I was prosperous at many times through that same faith. And that is what I want to share for you. That, my friends, has been my Faithx. That is what I say at the end of TEDx, right? Thank you.